Let's break down the math on a short-term rental. A lot of investors do the math wrong, thinking that they're going to be much more profitable than they really are because they don't understand all of the additional expenses that occur and all the additional management that occurs on a short-term rental versus a long-term rental. There can be some massive benefits, of course, as well, but let's talk about the math piece of this, and we'll talk about some of the benefits along the way as well. So the first thing when you're analyzing a short-term rental is obviously you got to understand the cost involved of the purchase of the building, as well as the cost of the furniture to furnish that property, which a lot of people can get wrong. They don't know where to buy it. It takes them a lot longer to set that unit up than they really think it's going to because they don't have an efficient system to set these up necessarily. And so sometimes it can take a month or more to get a whole unit set up instead of, I've heard of people doing it in a few days to a week or less on a full setup, depending on how big the house is and units and all that stuff. So understanding your upfront cost is absolutely key, where your purchase price of the property or your down payment and your mortgage, of course, to understand if you're going to get financing or buy the building in cash, or sometimes be able to do a rental arbitrage where you can rent a property out from a landlord and then do a short-term rental and sublease the property out via a short-term rental contracts and make a spread, which is one of the most profitable ways to do it. You have to understand your math very well whenever you're using financing on a building or whenever you are utilizing that rental arbitrage strategy, because you want to make sure not only are you making a profit at the end of the day, but you are making enough profit to make it worth your time for running the extra work on a short-term rental, or being able to be enough to pay the manager and then you additional cash flow on top of that. Okay, so understanding those things is key, and realizing your starting point is your initial cost. Okay, second thing you do is you are going to comp out the nightly rates on your property. If you're saying your property is going to be immaculate, you're going to make it look perfect, you're going to get professional pictures on it, absolutely great. Now go compare it to other properties that you are seeing out there on Airbnb, on VRBO, on a lot of the other platforms, and actually pull those comps onto a spreadsheet so you can analyze, hey, this is the nightly rates. And it's not as simple as being able to just blanket go pick properties that you see out there. You need to be looking at the calendars and how booked they are, and understand the professionalism. Are they super hosts or not? How do their pictures look? Do they look professional, or do they look like all dark and horrible? So you're looking for the ones that are going to look like yours, that look perfect, that look amazing, that you're going to come out with. And so being able to look at the right comps in the first place are key, versus what you are setting up. And then checking the calendars and saying, okay, this month on this weekend, it's this. Go through every weekend, then go through every week, understand what those price points are, and pick your lowest comps is what I typically do on this, to be more conservative on my numbers, more than, I don't want to go for that highest comp in the area that's showing $600 a night when everything else is showing $400 a night or $450 a night or something along those lines. So picking the right comps and going month by month, going week by week, weekdays and weekends, and understanding how booked they are and how much the nightly rates are and what the averages are. What the averages are a couple months out as well, realizing you get most of your bookings within the 2 month period before the date that before the booking date, and even more so in the last month or the last 2 weeks before the booking date as well, sometimes, depending on the popularity of the unit, depending on how set up it is and things like that. So understanding what your nightly rate is, or expectation is absolutely key to understanding what the math is. So you take your nightly rate, you're going to multiply it by 30 days, and then you're going to multiply it by 12 months to get what your number, what your revenue would be, your gross potential revenue would be, with 100% full occupancy, which won't happen, but
you're going to say, what is my max occupancy? What is my max revenue if I was amazing and had the best amazing property in the world and it was 100% occupied, which will never happen, like I mentioned. But what is that number? Then you're going to subtract out. I usually use a 25% vacancy allowance at the very least. Now, you might have a seasonal property where you need to use a 50% vacancy allowance or something along those lines, where you're way full in one time of year and not full in the other. So being able to be very conservative on those numbers. And if you're optimized and you know who your client is and who you're going to serve as far as that, guest at your property, then you can target that and be able to adjust your occupancy and get up to 85, 95% if you're really proficient and you have all the marketing angles covered, which include not just being on multiple platforms, but your own database as well, to be able to remarket to the people that stayed at your property. Maybe it's all business clients, specifically at, a one bedroom unit over and over again, right next to a business area or something. Then that type of situation can apply, where you can really focus and hyper focus on that business and get your occupancy rates up. Okay. So, but if sometimes it's seasonal, I use 25% off the top, and then you have to subtract out the property management. Property management fees can be all across the board in this industry. I've seen as high as 25%. I've seen as low as a flat $250 a month with a $20 per booking or per night stay, which there's different structures out there, and you want to understand what they do and don't do with those management structures, so you understand if you need to be bringing in more people to help with some of the accounting or some of the turnover costs and some of the turnover work. So it depends on what that property management company does, and getting a really clean understanding of what they do is key. I usually use 20% off the top just for property management as well, just to be on the safe side when I'm being really conservative on numbers. I just want to use that top number. So you take your gross potential rents minus 25% vacancy minus your 20% in property management. And then you have to subtract out your property taxes. You have to subtract out your insurance, traditional repairs on that property if you own that building as well. Even if you're subleasing that property out and being able to be doing the short-term rental arbitrage, you still want to allocate money for repairs, because you don't want a lot of headaches for that landlord that's allowing you to do that. So sometimes you eat some of those repairs, you eat some of the paint costs, you eat some of the little things that happen that way to make sure that relationship is good. If you own the building, making sure that you have proper capex set aside for, as well as for replacements of different items that are in the home. So you have furniture replacements on top of capex. So we usually put $400 a month for furniture replacements, because they're not going to last more than 5 years on some of these items. And so being able to break that down and put that money aside for when those things happen. And then also, if you own the building, capex for the major systems in the home with regard to the roof, the HVAC system, the plumbing, electrical, all those major big ticket items should have a capex set aside for those items. You have utilities, including cable and that kind of thing. If you're going to get cable, now you can use YouTube TV and some of these other things to keep some of that cost down, or they can log into their own accounts as well sometimes, depending on the location and how high end it is, what you're going to do there. And then you have the lawn care that you typically have to do, pest control that you typically need to do. You don't want spiders running around on people, and got to keep that under control in a short-term rental as well. So all of these expenses break down to your net income, and then you subtract your rental payment or your mortgage payment on that deal, so that way you understand what your true cash flow is with regard to these investments. So obviously you have your insurance. I think I missed that insurance piece, but the insurance as well goes in there. So you got your vacancy management, property taxes, insurance, repairs, capex, utilities, your furniture replacements, your lawn control, your lawn and your pest control as well, all built in to this cash flow stream. So while it may seem like your gross potential rents are crazy high at $450 a night for 30 days at 12 months or 365 days a year, the breakdown of that, you really cut a lot out in expenses. So a lot of people end up in a negative cash flow situation, or don't know how to manage it efficiently. So lose money in a lot of different ways, or don't become a super host, don't do the things right to propel themselves to the best phase four to be successful. So I hope this helps you guys with tips and tricks on real estate. If you like this content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will be coming out with new content consistently for you to make money in real estate. Hope this helps.